Hello, welcome back to All For United. How about that, eh? Another win, another clean sheet. I think I tweeted earlier, that's 13 out of 17 now since the World Cup, so we are on fire right now. Lots of people talking about, and me included, a little bit worried, where's this going to lead us? Let's just enjoy the ride while we're here. I've spoken to people that have been at Old Trafford today, and they just say it's just absolutely bouncing. And I can see Benny in the comments as well. I know you were there today. I'll be intrigued to know what it was like where you were as well, because everyone I speak to just says Old Trafford is the place to be right now. I've got Hammer, Tony, and Z back on the channel as well. I've not seen you for a long, long time. I can't remember when you were last on, but it must have been October, maybe even before that. So it's been a while.
It's been a couple of months. I was busy with something, but I'm super happy to be back.
Indeed, it's great to have you back on. Right, we'll dive into it. Let's go to the line. We'll start with the lineup because there was talk on the show. I think Tony, you were on it the other day with Barry. We were talking about how much would Ten Hag rotate. This is the game where he will rotate because of obviously the Champions League for the Europa League against Barcelona. It feels like a Champions League tie, doesn't it? The game obviously against Barca. We've got the cup final. Hammer, you start us off with that one. Then were the changes what you expected? I mean, we said before we went live, it's not like he could make loads. We didn't have loads of options to bring on, but the changes he did make, was that kind of where your head was thinking with that?
I think more or less, like you said, there was only so many options. I probably would have started Sancho over Garnacho. Don't get me wrong, Garnacho's been playing well, but I remember I did see somebody tweet, and I kind of agreed with it, that I feel like sometimes Garnacho's better as impact sub, coming on later in the game and take advantage of things. So yeah, other than that, I definitely did. I was expecting some type of change, and as people say too, even when he does make changes, he doesn't make a whole crazy amount of changes, just a few tweaks here and there. So it's kind of what you expected.
Yeah, I mean, Tony, someone's saying about we need a Tony fan club. I'm assuming that's about you, not Martial.
Yeah. It's someone, I think it's someone I know I sent a link out to him, and I know I see us on the name. I was there, I know who it is. So.
You see me shaking my head and bowing as I brought that on screen. I suddenly realised
it's a good one. It's not as good as the other one, but it's pretty good.
Do you know what? You nearly had me saying that then. Just before, I'm glad I didn't say that out loud. That's just you demonetised me off. But Tony, for yourself, you were on that preview show talking about the rotations you would make. Was it what you expected?
Yeah, I kind of expected Rashford to start, even though I'd have liked him to have a rest. But he shows his value every week, every game he plays. He's paramount to this team's success at the moment. Ten Hag can't really rest him in these sort of games. I like the fact Lindelof got a game today. I think Lindelof came in and did a really good job as well. There's some players like Sabitzer came back into the game today. Martinez. And Dalot and Wan-Bissaka had a bit of rotation as well. So there was a few good changes in there, and I think it benefited the team quite well. Garnacho gets another start. He did. I think Ten Hag did what was logical in this situation. He couldn't change wholesale changes, but he made enough changes in the sense of it kept things fresh enough to go against Leicester. And Leicester have been really good at the moment as well. So they weren't an easy opponent.
No, 100%. And Z, for yourself, I know... was there any changes that you would have, like extra changes you would have made, or do you think, Ten Hag clearly taking every competition seriously right now? Was that about the change you'd make? A lot of them, obviously, in the backline, Sabitzer obviously came in. We know Casemiro was suspended as well, but was that lineup about what you expected to see?
I think yes. I was expecting a few changes because I thought that he's going to be concentrating on the Barcelona game more. I was expecting Maguire to start, but I didn't know that he was injured. So Lindelof replacing him over there was a good decision, because I think at this stage we're coming when all the players have to play up a certain role in the game and get their minutes in. And I feel like at the end of the day, if you come out with a good result, it matters even more then.
I couldn't unmute for some reason then. I was panicking around, quickly trying to unmute that. But no, I agree. And as RP's saying there, I think obviously on the show with Tony the other day, we called 3 or 4 Ten Hag thinks we can win everything. I think that's his mentality, isn't it? He's talking about going far in all comps. We're still in all comps that we can possibly be. Obviously, I know it's in the title about the title charge being on. We'll get to that in a little bit. But right now, we're looking comfortably in the league. Europa League, FA Cup, Carabao Cup final. We're still pretty solid in all comps right now. I'll start. Let's get the slight negative out of the way then, if it is a negative, because we did go on to win 3-0 in the end. this will lead us into the De Gea talk as well. But Hammer, that first half, obviously there was times in that first half where we were pretty under the cosh, so to speak. A couple of excellent saves from De Gea to keep us in the game, really. We could have gone in at half time 2-3, goals down or whatever it would have been at the time. But what do you think that was down to, that first half? Do you think, because we started the first 5-10 minutes really well, completely all over them, and then it just flipped, and for 20-30 minutes we were backs against the wall till half time, really.
Well, I'd say I would say two things come to mind. From our side, it is like the rotation that we just talked about. I think that probably had a little bit of play into it. I think, right, Dallow's been injured for a little while. Lindelof is getting game time here and there kind of thing. So I think some of the people coming in weren't, up to par or in the flow of the game because they're not playing as much as they usually were back in the last few seasons. And then also I think it was from their end, like I think I just mentioned it backstage with you, freaking Tete, that guy up on the right side, was destroying us down there that first half. So, yeah, I think we had some people who were just not necessarily in form up to the flow of the game. And then, some players were just playing really well for Leicester. And we got some old school David De Gea to keep us in that first half. So.
No, I mean, just before we do quickly go back to that, obviously Benny sat in the Stretford, and Stretford was in fine voice. They Barca on Thursday will be the one under the lights. Old Trafford is electric anyway. I feel like because of the way the tie is balanced, that 2-2 is going to be even more like that. It's going to be needed as well. So, Erik's instructed to be in fight. Exactly. He knows. I think he's not just saying the right things; he's doing it as well. I think that's the difference with Ten Hag. I'm sure we're going to talk about him more in a little bit as well. I mean, Tony, for yourself, Finn's talking about De Gea shines when United are under pressure. Obviously, we know how good De Gea was in that seasons where we weren't so great as a team. De Gea was our player of the season for 2 years running, I think it was.
At 3 seasons.
Three.
Sir Matt Busby, yeah.
So, I mean, just was that it? That how do you think Leicester kind of attacked this? Hammer mentioned Tete there, particularly on that right-hand side. But just talk to us about that kind of first 30 minutes, and De Gea's obviously incredible saves at the time.
I think the first few minutes of the game, United did look in control of things. And then obviously Leicester pushed forward. They kind of knew that we were a little bit tired. I think they knew that we were kind of not at our full strength. And they exposed that quite a lot in the first half. Leicester were really lucky to go into the halftime 1-0 down. They were the better team in the first half, in my opinion, had the better chances, played the better football. And luckily De Gea was unbelievable with those 2 saves. The second one in particular is one of the saves of the season. I think it will be a contender at the end of the season anyway, because he has no right to get there. The Leicester player, he couldn't do anything more than what he did. And sometimes you just have to bow down to the excellence that sometimes is David De Gea, especially at shot stopping. But there was other areas of the game today where he was really commanding, really good, and he's showing signs of a keeper that's really grown under Ten Hag, and I think it's going under the radar a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, I want to talk about De Gea in a little bit more detail in just a second, but see for yourself, what do you think that kind of first, Charlie's saying there, we started to see even though the first 30 was shaky, I knew they had another 3 or 4 gears to go through. Was that it? Do you just think we just maybe...
I think we were in cruise control a little bit, like not like cruising, kind of like laying back a little bit, kind of taking it easy. I can understand the tiredness. I was trying to say this on Twitter during the game while I was there, like, look, at the end of the day, United play every 3 days. That all these players aren't superhumans. They're just footballers at the end of the day, and their bodies aren't going to be 100% every single game. So they have to kind of mitigate the risk in a lot of respects. And first half, Leicester tried to expose that, and they could have exposed that with a couple of goals. And I think we started to get a bit more control in the game after the first goal. I noticed it seemed like the pressure eased off us a tiny bit, but the first 30 minutes we were really under the cosh, and I think Leicester would have been unfortunate not to see themselves go 1 or 2 up.
Yeah, I mean, Z, for yourself, do you kind of echo those comments? Maybe we just didn't start as well, and from a Leicester point of view, obviously disappointed maybe not to go in with at least a goal. But how do you kind of feel before we talk about De Gea in more detail? What do you think it maybe was in that first kind of 30 minutes or so?
I think I'll completely agree with what Tony has to say. I think in the first half, it completely showed that one team played their last game 3 days ago, whereas the other team played their last game a week ago. It was quite evident. It was quite evident, I believe. I think we started the half well. Like the first 5 minutes were really good. We were on top of the game, but after that, as the game progressed, I feel like we saw more of what a Brendan Rodgers side is made up of, and it was more high intense, high pressure from them. And but I feel like when we went into the second half, we responded back well, which makes me think that probably Ten Hag's hair dry treatment is starting to come in handy.
It's certainly a fair point because we do come out better in second halves. We have a lot this season. Barca was another example of that. We have a lot of times this season maybe started the game a little bit slower, but progressed on as obviously as the game's gone on. The man of the match poll is in the chat. We were a bit torn on the fourth one. I threw Sancho in there because I thought he played well, albeit I know he came on in the second half. But we put him in there. I mean, we could have chose literally anybody for that fourth slot. Benny's mentioned it's a bit. Veghorst had a fairly decent game. Fred was one of the highest rated if you're going off ratings. So there's certainly plenty of players we could have chose. But make sure you get your votes in on that. We'll come back to that towards the end. But one player that is on there, we've just briefly spoken about, De Gea. Now, Hammer, do you think this is De Gea kind of back to his best? Because not only was he good at what we know De Gea is good at, but he was also coming out for crosses. His distribution wasn't that bad either today. Is this kind of him proving that he can play in Ten Hag's system as well as being the great shot stopper that we know he is as well?
To an extent, yes. I don't know if it was maybe Tony in the back said that he feels like De Gea has been on like having something to prove again, and he kind of does, right? The last couple of seasons, he's been one of the conversations of maybe we got to move on, maybe we got to sell him, see if we can get somebody else. So I think it's maybe just the competitive athlete in him, right? I know some people, at the professional level, people are just going to be insanely competitive. Some might be more than others, but I think maybe that's part of it coming back for De Gea, because I think a lot of people, not just within Manchester United, outside of Manchester United too, are seeing the trajectory that Ten Hag is putting in the club, and I'm sure De Gea would like to remain part of that if we actually go in the direction that it looks like we are.
Yeah, 'cause isn't his contract up?
Yeah, it's up at the end of the season, and I believe they're trying to agree a new deal under reduced terms, which De Gea seems to be evidently happy with. But I guess with Ten Hag, he must be thinking of his options. I'm pretty confident it's not something that's of paramount importance to that. I think they all parties probably realise that something will get settled between now and the end of the season. It wouldn't surprise me if it happens in the next few weeks once the ownership deal's concluded. But yeah, with with De Gea, I think it's easy to knock him because in a lot of ways, because he's an old-fashioned goalkeeper. He's very much the shot stopper. Doesn't really, he's not going to come play sweeper keeper. We know that that's not his game. But what he does have in abundance is shot stopping ability, and the things where he can make things look so easy that are so difficult. The two saves that he pulled off in the first half, the first one was unbelievable. The second one even better. And I think the momentum shifts in those moments. If De Gea concedes that first chance, we're on the back foot for the entire game. And Leicester changed the precedent of that whole game. The second one, same principle again. Leicester get that goal. They're going, we should be 2 up by now, but we're only 1. We'll carry on pushing. And you know what? Like, it's those moments. I know De Gea didn't make 20 saves today, but those saves are in such pivotal moments early on in the game that they change the whole direction of how the game goes in the end, the narrative of it all. And like I said, I've slandered De Gea a little bit the last few weeks in regards to his distribution and his cross collecting and things like that. He didn't catch any crosses, but the punches he was doing today was unbelievable. Like, he put some real force behind them, and the kicking as well. There wasn't anything that I was spotted where I thought, it was a bit of a dodgy pass. He was really smooth on it. He seems to be a little bit more confident these last few games, I think. He seems to be a little bit more confident.
I was just trying to find what his accuracy actually was for today.
Yeah.
His accurate long ball's 59%, accurate pass is 74. I don't know what counts as a long ball.
Yeah.
I'm a shoot. Well, that's up for interpretation, isn't it? But I don't know what they're calculating that on. But yeah, 59%. I'm just trying to see what that compares to his last few games.
Just to go to your comment, Dave, Dav147. I don't think anyone who slanders David De Gea is crazy. I think you've got to bear in mind football is the modern game of football. The goalkeeper is a lot more than just a shot stopper now, and it's a valid argument to at least discuss the possibility of bringing someone in who can play with the ball better at his feet, he can claim crosses better. That's not to knock De Gea at all. Everyone in here knows how good a shot stopper De Gea is. Probably the best United have ever seen. But what I'm saying in here is there's so much more that a goalkeeper needs to provide in his game. And Ten Hag's obviously going to be looking into that in the summer. It's just a discussion at the moment. No one's saying that De Gea is crap or rubbish or anything like that. I think De Gea is one of his days probably one of the best keepers in the league, or if not the world.
It certainly is. I mean, we've had this debate on many times on this channel over the last couple of years. A lot of shouts for Dean Henderson. As people will know, if you've watched this channel for a while, I was completely against that at the time because I just don't rate Henderson in the slightest. I think he thinks he's better than he actually is, but there we are.
There may or may not have been a time where I said to give him a chance and sell De Gea, but I'm going to go back on that.
Me and Stu have had some arguments on that one, that's for sure. And but yeah. I mean, Z, for yourself, talking on obviously on De Gea, I think Tony raised a valid point that there is more to a goalkeeper in the modern game. Barry's offered obviously a counter to that, and obviously Tony, you can come back in on this if you want. But Barry's saying a goalie has to keep the ball out of the net. That's the primary objective, and he nails that. I mean,
I completely understand where you're coming from, football crazy, and I'm not trying to argue with that point. That is the primary objective, but there's so many more objectives to that game, and the better United become, the less shots United are going to face. And that's what I'm saying. Like, you look at Man City, for example, Ederson. I'm not comparing Ederson and De Gea in any respects in regards to shot stopping. We all know De Gea is a superior shot stopper. But what I'm saying in regards to things like claiming crosses, coming out to play the ball, that's what Ten Hag wants United to ultimately end up being. He doesn't like this long ball playing. It's evident from his Ajax days that that's not what he wants his identity of football to be. And it's whether or not there's a question mark. I'm not saying De Gea can't keep improving. He's showing it today and other games that he's got that capability to improve. But it's just obviously there. Like Ten Hag's probably going to look at the end of the season and go, look, I need someone who's as good on the ball as a goalkeeper, who's good on the ball as, say, like, for example, one of my midfielders. And De Gea, unfortunately, I don't think ever going to be that. Not to say he can't. If he does, I'll put my hands up and say, fair play to the guy. But yeah.
I completely agree with that, because I feel like De Gea has been criticized in the past because of the mistakes he's made. Those mistakes were made, in my opinion, because of a shaky defense that we had, because of a weak defense that we have. If you have a shaky and a weak defense, week in and week out, as a goalkeeper, your confidence goes low. If your confidence goes low, that eventually leads up to blunders or small mistakes, which was the case for De Gea, in my opinion. But even if you think about last season or the season before that, even when he was making up those mistakes, there were still games that he won us single-handedly, even in those seasons, by making some really crucial saves. And with this season, I feel like it's just showing, even every game is making it more evident on the effect Ten Hag has made on each and every one of the players. De Gea was one of them. I did not think would make it after till the next season, but I now personally feel like he's going to sign up a contract extension and stay with us for probably 2-3 good seasons. And at the same side, we are going to probably bring in another goalkeeper, but I think he's going to stay. Same thing was with Wan-Bissaka. I did not think that he had a future at United, but Ten Hag has again done some good wonders with him, which is why I feel like, with the philosophy that we are going with, the manager's philosophy that every player has to follow, it has to start up from the back, which has to start up from building up from the back. I think behind the scenes, they're definitely coaching De Gea on doing that, and it's becoming evident in games like these. I still think Ten Hag's going to take his time to decide who's going to be his number one choice moving forward from next season, which is why I still think that we're going to go ahead and buy and make a purchase and buy a goalkeeper. However, I don't know if you folks noticed, but there was one instance in today's game too where Martinez started the goal kick from the back and passed it to Shaw, and that's how the ball was moved forward. So that could be another option that probably Ten Hag's looking into, and probably stopping De Gea to start up the build play, and giving that responsibility more to Varane or to Martinez.
No, it's definitely a fair argument. I know, well, like I said, he's on the poll. I don't know quite. I've not looked at the poll at the moment, but I think he's not far behind. So yeah, Bruno and De Gea are fairly similar, and Rashford obviously is out front as I expected him to be. I think somebody put a comment earlier on saying, why isn't this just a Rashford poll? But yeah, we're going to get to him because I think we're all running out of words very quickly. But just, do you want to quickly respond to that? I don't want to
I completely understand. I'd still have De Gea in goal at the moment. I'm not saying, this is what I'm trying to say. I'm not saying we should buy someone. I'm saying it's something that Ten Hag will be thinking about. And I think Raya, like RP Field said, is a good option. Like, you know, he's a cheap option, and it's competition. Like at the moment at United, there is no competition for David De Gea's share. Tom Heaton might be saying that in Carabao Cup interviews, but we know realistically, barring a horrible injury, Heaton's not playing the big games for United. Whereas if someone like David Raya comes in, that puts a firework up his backside and could potentially make him even better. And that's what we need. We need competition in every area. And, you know, and that only makes for better players, in my opinion. Like Dean Henderson, and I don't think we'll be coming back in the summer. So I think, you know, getting another goalkeeper in would be really good anyway. So it doesn't really matter who starts. For me, I still want David De Gea to start. But if he keeps on improving the way he is in regards to his distribution, things like that. But it's just a discussion. It's not something in concrete. I'm not going push him out. I hate him. I love the guy to bits. I think he's been one of our best players in the last 10 years, if not the best player.
I'll just add a little bit on that, and that's like for last season, like if we would have thought when we had the options between Henderson and De Gea, we would have been having a conversation who to play in the Champions League and the Cup final. But now that we have no competition for De Gea right now, we won't be having this conversation because we know that De Gea is going to be playing the next 2 games. But I feel like with the next season moving forward, and if we can get up a good goalkeeper, whether that be Raya, Melier, or Porto's goalkeeper, Costa. Yeah, I think these 3 are really good options, and De Gea has been a servant of the game for the club for the last 10 years, which is why I feel like he should be offered a new contract, should stay longer for 3-4 more years, and mentor whoever comes in and tells them about, like, you know, what it actually means to play for United, and probably get in some Cubs games here or there, or compete for his position with that new goalkeeper.
I'm pretty sure as well. Was that De Gea's 180th? Because he equals Schmeichel
he's equals Schmeichel's clean sheets, and he will surpass that. And Dav, we'll move on in a second. I'm sure we'll have more discussions on goalkeeping signings in future shows and stuff. But just to go to your point about Ederson, I'm not comparing Ederson to De Gea at all. I'm just saying that's a goalkeeper that Ten Hag likes in his team. If you watch his Ajax games, Onana plays so much similar to Ederson and things like that. But I'm saying, like people have said, I can completely understand the points for goalkeepers being primarily a shot stopper, and not being the greatest distributor of the ball. But I can also understand, you know, the distribution being so key to a game. But Alisson's, for me, has been one of the best goalkeepers in the league as well. So
I'll just add a little bit to that. For you to become a good shot stopper, more shots has to be taken towards your goal. Liverpool and Man City, Ederson faces less amounts of goals on his shot, and as well as Neuer, as compared to De Gea. De Gea has always had a shaky defense, which is why he has to stop more. Eventually, when he has a great defense, hopefully he won't have to stop more and be more involved in build up of the game.
Yeah. No, 100%. It's been a good little discussion point around De Gea. Like I said, none of us are sat here saying De Gea is not a good keeper. He's on the poll for a reason. You know, he was one of our better players today. You know, as I think Penny said a bit earlier on, you know, he kept us in the game. You know, we go in at half time losing potentially that game if it's not for De Gea's shot stopping. We'll move on to Rashford then, obviously in the goal, obviously in the first half that led us into. I literally don't know what to say on this. I literally just wrote, when I was writing my note preparation for this, like kind of in order of how I want to talk about the show, I literally just wrote Rashford because I don't know what else to write about him that's not already been said. I don't know how many goals somebody could confirm that for me. I think is that 15 and 17 now, or 16 and 17 since the World Cup. I mean, Hammer, just talk to us about that first goal. It's a great ball from Fernandes, obviously Rashford finishing. I got to be honest, just my quick 2 pence before you jump in on this. I thought Rashford was a bit greedy shooting when Garnacho was completely wide open in the centre. But I totally understand why. Yes, the first one. If you watch it back, Garnacho, and you can see Garnacho's like annoyed at him and doesn't know whether to run off celebrating happy or not, because he kind of looks at Rashford and just kind of, I don't know. I would be annoyed if that's not coming across personally, but he scored, and that's the confidence he's in right now.
I get that to an extent, but one, like you said, the form and the confidence he's in right now, and 2, okay, even if Garnacho was open, Rashford was in so much space, he could have stopped, done a handstand and a fucking backflip and still got the shot off. What is he? He's not crossing that. But in terms of Rashford, I think he is approaching probably, if he isn't at already, he's very close to his best form of his career. And for some reason, in my head, the only thing that keeps popping up is Super Saiyan Blue from Dragon Ball Z. And if we get to the next level and he starts performing on this in Champions League, then that'll be Ultra Instinct. He's not at that yet. But he is at the best form of his life right now and his career. And I think a lot of people are saying this who are actually being aware of everything. And I think it's more credit to Ten Hag. I think he's transformed Rashford's confidence and playing ability. I think some people even pointed out to what Connor was trying to talk about is he did look up. I'm pretty sure he saw Garnacho over there. He didn't just have his head down like he has in the last couple of seasons. But again, he's on a form where if he's in that much space, he's not passing it at all. And most of the time it's going to the back of the net, and just to say, sorry, even his goal in the last game that he snuck in near post, I thought when he took that touch after he got it through, I thought his touch was going to make him have to pass it, but he still took the shot and was able to get the goal. So,
I'll also add, Connor, just to answer your question, he spoke about it in the interview he did for NBC right after the game. That was broadcasted here in America. And he mentioned that he did see Garnacho, but he didn't pass it to him because he thought that the defender is going to get to the ball faster. And then he said that I was also calculating it, that if the keeper makes a save, then Garnacho would be there for the rebound. That's why he targeted on the other side of it.
I mean, if that's all in his thinking while he's bearing down on net in a game that's 0-0, in a game you need to win, I mean, fair play to the kid, because I don't know how he thinks of all that when he's running on goal. You think of the adrenaline you've got at the time, but yeah, I mean, fair play to him. Like I said, I think it says more about the finish, the fact that he scored from that angle, than he didn't pass, because the easier option I think would be to pass in that situation. As Benny said, all the best strikers in the world agree, and that 100%. You watch. The likes of currently, in my opinion, the best player in the world right now, which is Mbappe. You watch him, he's shooting that every single time. Look at some of the shots that he takes from ridiculous angles and doesn't pass it. So, yeah, 100% on that one. Tony, for yourself, what do you kind of make of we were fully expecting Rashford to win the poll, but that first goal, the Fernandes little flick round the corner and the Rashford finish, like I said, that's pretty sure it's 15 or 16 in 17 games since the World Cup now. That's 6 in his last 5. I mean, it's just ridiculous right now, isn't it?
Yeah. The best free certainties in life, death, taxes, and Rashford scoring. Like, that's every game now. Like, he's just on another planet. I'm running out of superlatives to describe the guy. He's the best striker in the world at the moment in current form. I'm not saying he's the best striker in the world. I'm saying on form at the moment. Is there any forward that you are more confident in scoring a goal than Marcus Rashford at the moment? The guy is unstoppable. He could have had 4 goals today. He could have easily have had 4. And you know what? Like, and that's, he'll probably leave that pitch today, and Ten Hag will probably say to him, you could have had 4 today if you just thought about it a little bit more. And this is the guy, last season that so many people were saying should have been sold, should have been this. He wasn't good enough. He's a Theo Walcott. He's a Danny Welbeck regen. This guy is proving so many people wrong on a weekly basis. And, I think if he had this form at the start of the season, we'd be talking about potential player of the season. I think he could still be in contention for player of the season for the entire Premier League. I think he's been that good. And it says a lot when a player like Casemiro or Martinez have come into the club and changed the dynamic, that Rashford is up for the shout of the United's best player this season, in my opinion. He is... in any striker in the situation, I'd bet my house on Rashford finishing it right now. I love the guy. If he wants a snog, if he wants my missus, if he wants me or anything, he can have it. Yeah, I mean, he's got the keys, man. He's the greatest. He's just. I'm getting too excited about it, as you can see. I get too excited when United get a good striker. I was on the hype train for Martial for about 2 years as well.
I mean, statistically, it is his best season now.
Yeah.
He has overtaken his best scoring season, at least. And And like I said, a lot of this has been since the World Cup. And I did see a post earlier, not comparing the two together, but somebody did put a point on that something that's not talked about enough is the way that Saka and Rashford have, and obviously Sancho, I know he's coming back into the fold, but have bounced back after the Euros. You know, the kind of, we all saw the abuse and stuff that they got. Obviously, Rashford had a bad run of form and things like that. And look at the levels that both players are playing at now, and particularly Rashford and Saka. So yeah, it's pretty incredible. Like I said, I'm with you, Jen. I don't even know what else to say about the guy at the minute, because, like I said, he shut me right up. When I wasn't saying for him to be sold, that's for sure, but I didn't think at the time he was up to the hype that some people said he was. But right now, I mean,
it makes you think about certain scenarios and situations. Like, I remember the France-England game, and I'm just thinking, if someone said this on Twitter earlier, and it was a great discussion. And he said, "What if Rashford started that game against France? We'd have won. We could have easily. He was that good. I saw it, and I was, England's lost our game because he's absolutely proven everyone wrong. And if it weren't for Haaland this season, he'd be up for contender for Golden Boot as well. It's just that Haaland's a freak of nature.
Well, he's not far off. I'm pretty sure he's 3 off Kane. So yeah, you take Haaland out of it, then he is. He's right in the mix. 100% on that one, by the way.
Yeah.
Because the work that he is doing, behind the scenes, if you speak to anyone who's in and around Carrington and at United, that guy, McCarthy, is, like you said, what he's done for Rashford. The forward line, Sancho, who we're going to get onto in a second, phenomenal. I just hope that when Martial comes back from injury, he can. I've been saying this for about 6 years, but I hope he can stay fit and he can be another one.
You know what? It'd just be. Have you ever watched an episode of The Simpsons where the punter kicks the ball and his leg falls off? I'm just expecting that to happen with Martial next week in the Carabao Cup final. He comes on, takes strike, his foot falls into the stands. Everyone grabs the foot as a trophy, and we never see Martial again. But he leaves on a high. I'll send you it later. You will understand the reference once I send it to you.
I don't, but no, I agree. Like I said, I'm just hoping he stays fit for whatever it is. The length of time that we do. We haven't spoken about Weghorst yet, Jarvis. We'll get to that in a second. Z, is there anything else? I don't know whether you had your say on Rashford. I know you quickly jumped in after Hammer there, but is there anything you wanted to add on Rashford and his goal today? Or, well, goals. I know he scored twice, one in the second half as well.
I think the only thing I'll add is that he's the best in the world right now. I don't think there's a player better than him performing ever since the World Cup. Simple. And Gareth Southgate is a fraudster.
I like Southgate as a person. I've had a person
as a manager. I meant as a manager.
He's a really nice guy, but as a manager, it's unjustifiable.
Like if I was from UK, I would have been really upset for Rashford not playing in that game against France.
It's all right. Y'all just gonna waste a second golden generation. It's okay.
Barry, I do. I just know good TV when I see it. That's all. It's a running joke on the women's channel in particular that there's a whole list of famous films out there that I have just not seen. You could probably no, never seen it.
No, come on, you've never seen it.
No, there's a whole list.
Shawshank Redemption, you've got to have seen that.
No, that was one of the films that was brought up as well.
Green Mile.
I know what happens, but I've not seen it. No. Yeah, this is why Barry brings it up, because we did this on the women's channel where they just listed a whole load of films and
wait, any of the Godfathers?
Couldn't even tell you what happens.
Okay, that hurts. That genuinely, I've grown up in North Jersey since I was fucking 4. That genuinely hurts.
Yeah, I do apologize. Oh God, people on this channel are finding out now. Barry, look what you've done. I shouldn't have brought that comment up. I
actually think you're in a really beneficial situation, Connor, because you get to enjoy these great films for the first time at some point. You know what I mean? And there's nothing better than discovering a good film for the first time. I guess you can look at the bright side of it all. You haven't seen them, but you're going to enjoy them all. Rocky IV is the greatest film of all time.
God, I don't want to be on a show with Barry because you wait till he exposes some of the other truths that I've shamefully admitted some things I've not seen in films and actors that I find overrated. That will trigger a whole section of fans, I'm sure, if I start really into that. All I say is it's something to do with Star Wars, so I won't go into that. So I could trigger a whole fan base right there. Jarvis mentioned Vegas. We'll quickly talk about him before we look at the other players and kind of the second half, which obviously was the meaty end of the game. Hammer for yourself, Vegas again played a little bit deeper. He was the one that was dropping in kind of in midfield. There's a couple of opportunities I felt like he could have passed it a little bit quicker. But overall, his work rate off the ball in particular is why I think he's in the team. What did you make of his performance overall today?
Yeah, I think he played all right, and I think he's doing some of the outside work that him dropping deep is gonna require him to do. In terms of some of the work that he's doing when he's dropping in, I know he's been literally basically a target striker a lot of the times because he's freaking 6'6" and he's a ridiculous size, but he's got to at least attempt the passes, right? Like he had that one earlier in the first half, or at some point in the first half, where Garnacho made a run and he was going to break the defense, and he just didn't play the pass. And then in terms of him trying to get to those goals, I mean, shit, I think I tweeted it after one of his attempts, and I was like, he's got freaking Maguire speed, man. That shit is painful, and it looks like he's trying really hard too, and it just hurts. It's like, get there, man. It's right there, but. But he's doing well, and I think somebody mentioned that I think he's going to get confidence. Once he finally does get that goal, and he starts building up a momentum, it's going to do good for him. And we do need to start putting in more crosses. I think there's been a couple games as well where we subbed him off and put in like Palestri, who's good at putting in some crosses, but then we're putting in crosses to Rashford. And to be fair, Rashford's got a couple headed goals, but there's I don't know what's the point of taking off the 6'6" guy and then start putting in crosses. That don't make sense.
No, I agree with that. And I agree as well. As soon as he gets his goal in the league or whatever it is, I know he scored against Forest, didn't he, in the Carabao Cup? But yeah, he just needs a couple. And to be fair, he's on loan. It was a short-term fix anyway for the season anyway. And to be fair, without him, like we said before about rotation, who else are we playing? Could you take him out of that 11 today? It's Elanga up front, or it's somebody else that could potentially come in. Tony, for yourself, their course, what do you kind of make of him?
I think he's class. I genuinely think he's a class player. I think he does so much dirty work that people just understate. Like, I'm not trying to I'm using this as a compliment to the player that I'm going to refer him to, but he's like the Sergio Busquets of strikers. He does all the little things that you just to the naked eye you won't appreciate. Like, people say he's rubbish because he doesn't score goals, he doesn't do this, he doesn't do that. But RP Field said it perfectly. He doesn't get the goal he deserves. He pressures on the ball, and he really helps Fernandes. And I genuinely think he's someone that United should be signing full time at the end of the season as an alternative option. He can play so many different positions. He almost played like Cam at some points, almost like a Joe Linton sort of player. What he does for Newcastle, and it really helps the other players in the midfield, I think. And he's so unselfish as well. Like all he needs now is a goal, and there's not a player in the team right now that I want to get a goal more than him, because I think he's deserved a goal in a big game and in the Premier League.
I was going to say his reaction after that. He had a chance, didn't he, late on in the second half, and obviously the keeper saved it, and he kind of just fell to the floor, didn't he, just looking at the sky. And I think the commentator said it. He's almost thinking, like, what else do I have to do, like, to score? Because I mean, that was a good save. I'm going to be honest. I don't think there's much more he could have done with that particular effort. But Z, for yourself, what do you kind of make on Weghorst's performance?
No, I really like Weghorst. I feel like he's doing what he's been asked to do by the manager, and he's following the commands exactly as it is, which is why I feel like he's playing every game. I feel like Ten Hag is confident enough that if he wasn't doing what he's been asked to do, he would have been dropped, and someone else would have played. Bruno could have played in the middle, and Sancho could have started on the right. But Weghorst has been one consistent player that's playing every game. I also feel like Ten Hag is specifically making sure that he's, or at least trying his best to make all these players play to their strengths. One of his biggest strengths when we signed him back in January was how he presses teams and how much work rate he has. And that's the exact same thing that he's delivering at United right now. His presses are really good, and I feel like our wingers are benefiting from it in terms of Rashford, Bruno, Sancho, and Garnacho.
Yeah, 100%. Barrett, Benny is get my names right. Benny said, Weghorst is very tracking back is very underrated. Was left back for 1 point covering for Luke Shaw. I mean, that's just incredible for somebody as Hammer said, who's not got much speed. He's not blessed with pace, but to get back to that position.
I just like fighters in the United shirt, and I think Weghorst is a fighter, and that's what I'm trying to say. Like, he's not world class. I know he's not world class. Everyone knows he's not. But what we're saying is he's class in the sense of he does everything that you want of a player to come, of a striker. He does what Ten Hag wants him to do. How many players were trying to set him up for chances today because they want him to get in on goal because they can appreciate everything that he's doing for the team at the moment, and I think. Like someone wrote earlier, Martial won't get started as long as Weghorst is fit. I agree with that. I think Martial's got a little bit of work to do once he's fit again to get back in the team.
And Fergie always had these kinds of players. Like Fergie always had a Ji-Sung Park, a Darren Fletcher who would go ahead and do the work that was needed to be done to win those games. And I feel like he could be utilized in the exact same way this season, and hopefully if we sign him on a permanent deal for another 2 seasons.
Yeah. I think it's going to be interesting to see what happens with that in the summer. Hammer, I know you've got to jump off, so I'll just come to you for kind of your final thoughts. And who would you have voted for man of the match out of interest?
Man of the match, I'll say real quick. I'm going to go Rashford. The guy's on form, and he seems to just be continuing on a trajectory that doesn't seem to have any type of plateau coming up anytime soon. And then just 3 quick points on closing things that I'll make. In terms of the team, one thing I tweeted out is people were nervous, and yes, we didn't play great in that first half. When we had some key players either not available or rotating, but we came out of the second half, and as we all loved seeing, we ended up closing them out and really taking it to them. So I think that's a positive that we played well with Casemiro still being suspended, Varane being rested, that type of thing, people being out. And then in terms of what you guys are just talking about too, I wouldn't mind bringing Weghorst back, and I wouldn't mind bringing Sabitzer back, and I would do it in the sense of depth. Right, I would get rid of. I think, unfortunately, people like Martial, but his health issue is going to get him sold. Fred and/or McTominay are going to be sold. So I would sign both of them. And if we get the type of strikers that we're going for, whether that's Kane or Austin, I don't know how to say the guy's name from Napoli. Do you understand how pissed off a defender I would be if I played against Kane or Osimhen for 70 minutes? And then Weghorst came off in the last 20. I would be livid if that's the shit I had to deal with. So, I think they'd be good sign in terms of depth. And they, like you guys said, those are the type of players you need in the team. And they also do what Ten Hag wants.
No, 100%. Yeah, you definitely raised some great points. Hammer, it's been great to have you back on. I know you've got to shoot off, so I appreciate you coming on kind of a short turnaround. I'm sure we'll see you in a few weeks or when you're next on our show.
Have a good one, guys. I'll see you.
Nice one. See you in a bit. I mean, I feel that's a bit harsh. He's not class. I think he is. Maybe he's not, but he's not going to be the world class signing that everyone makes him. That everyone wanted him to be. He's not. He was never going to be that. It's a loan from Burnley, as somebody said earlier. But I think he's come in and done the job that Ten Hag wanted him to do. If I said at the time when we signed him, if he scores 5 goals, that's a success for me. Double figures is amazing.
I think with Weghorst as well, like I said, he does the dirty work that like Rashford's not going to do, not what like Anthony's not going to do. He does those little things, and that's what I'm saying. If Weghorst had 3 goals at the moment, people would be saying he's class. It's just because he doesn't have that return yet. He's gonna finish it. He's gonna start finishing goals. I think it wouldn't surprise me with 1-1 in the Carabao Cup final next week, and Weghorst scores a header, 80th something minute, and then people think he's the next reincarnation of Jesus. You know what I mean? Like, that's what I'm saying. These things can all turn around in a sixpence. But what I'm saying is he's not world class, but he's a class player in the sense of he's a class professional act, and he does what he's come in and done a job on a short notice, and that's what we needed. No one else was we couldn't afford anyone else. I guess that's what I'm trying to say here. Like, he's the best we could have possibly got, and he's capitalizing on the opportunity, in my opinion.
Yeah, and I agree with this point. He won't be. I agree. I don't think he will.
Yeah.
By the time that the sale has gone through, I don't think he will be bought. But
I think for 10 million quid, he'd be a good option, though.
he's not class, but Vegas does an important job. I think there's a difference here. Difference between world class and being class. I think he's a class professional. I think it's
that's what we're trying to say.
Different terminology. We don't think he's world class as in a world class player, but we think he's a class player to have around. You're talking about Ronaldo there. Yeah, he got us a few goals, but he was also toxic around the dressing room. So he made us a worse team. Vegas doesn't make us worse. So I think that's the difference when you're looking at it from that point of view. We're not sat here saying he's world class and he's going to score 20 goals. He's not.
No.
But he's doing the job that Ten Hag wants, and I think that's more important than anything. I've always said I don't care who the manager wants to sign, as long as they do a job for the team. I'm all for that. Same amount of goals, 60 million reserves. Exactly. So it's not
Had
all
a good World Cup there.
he did, didn't he? But it's not all sunshine and rainbows, I think is the point there. Can't remember. I was going to move on to now. Right, Sancho. That was the other player I wanted to quickly talk about. Scored obviously the third goal. It was a fantastic goal, by the way, as well. I think it was Martinez who won it back on the halfway line, played obviously into Rashford, through to Sancho, out wide to Bruno. The quick 1-2 back in. It's a great finish as well because there's a lot of pace on the pass from Bruno. But Tony, I'll come to you first on that one. Just the question I've kind of got written down for this one is in terms of talking about how Ten Hag has handled Sancho, because obviously we all know he went out of the side and had some issues to deal with off the pitch, but he's come back and came back, didn't set the world alight, but I thought today he was absolutely exceptional when he came on in that second half.
Yeah, I think that's the best we've seen of him since his return, since his comeback. I think each game he looks like he's got more energy, he's got more commitment to get to things, more determination. And today, the tracking back was really good from him as well at points. He did the little things that I noticed he hadn't been doing as much in other games, which I can understand. And I think Ten Hag's doing really well with handling his minutes. He's not played a full night yet, which, he probably won't for a couple more weeks, which is fine. But coming towards this paramount, this really vital last third of the season, I think a player like Sancho could make or break our season. When I say break season, I mean the question of whether or not people believe we're in a title race or not. His quality could contribute to us pushing for a title charge, could push towards a Carabao Cup victory, and obviously things in Europa and the FA Cup. There was no doubt about the quality of Sancho. No matter when he was bought, when he was at United, it was just obviously realising that. And I think Ten Hag started to bring that side out of Sancho now, and I think we're going to see a lot more of him showing his quality, his ability, and his and I think it will show in the performances and in the scoreline for United in the next few months and the subsequent seasons, hopefully.
No, 100%. I agree with that. I mean, Z, for yourself, Tony mentioned there about, him playing an important part. And obviously we spoke about the lack of options up front, that we have. Where do you kind of see Sancho? We mentioned, obviously, it talked to us about his second half as well, but also moving forward, how important that he could be to this side.
I feel like he looks like a new January signing to me. He looks very fresh. He looks completely energized, and whatever Ten Hag and his team has done with him has been remarkable. And if Ten Hag could even replicate, I would say 20% or 30% or 40% of what he did with Rashford, with Sancho, then my God, we have a player there. Because like when he was at Dortmund, we could see his talent, we could see the numbers that he was delivering. So I just feel like he just needs a little bit more push, and getting him back in full form has been a big positive for us. I also think his integration back into the side has been very smart and has been very clever, because he hasn't played a 90-minute game yet, but he has been effective in all the games that he's played. I feel like Ten Hag's probably pushing him on more of a middle role, because I usually see him playing more of on a central role. But probably that's an adaptation that he's probably working on with him. But let's see. I feel like with a player like Sancho, he's so versatile. He can play on the right. He can play on the left. He can play on the role of Bruno with little 1-2s here and there. And yeah, I don't think it's a worry for us that where he would be playing in the future, because there are plenty spots that he can occupy.
Yeah, I mean, it's an interesting point you make about him playing down the middle, because I often think, that I don't agree with the guy who said it. He was on another podcast, and I won't give him a shout out because he doesn't need it. But talking about, that wingers in the Premier League need to have that burst of pace about them. and that Sancho and Anthony don't seem to have that, and maybe they'd be better off suiting down the middle. Obviously, we're seeing Sancho a bit more down the middle, but I'm thinking, well, that can't work because we're pushing Bruno out on the right, and he's not exactly blessed with loads of pace either. So, but it's working. That interchange seems to be working. Whoever we're putting out there. Jarvis saying Sancho needs to continue to work on what he's doing and patterning out with the other forwards. Consistency is the key word for him. To be honest, staying fit, because this season anyway, staying fit will keep him in the 11. Because right now we don't have that many options there. Alanga and Palistri, the only attacking options we've got on the bench right now, or that we had today anyway. So
I think he starts. I think in absence of Anthony, he starts every game. Once he's back to his full fitness, I feel like it's going to be switched between him and Anthony. I don't think either of them can take out Rashford on this current form, which is why I feel like it's going to be a run between him, Anthony, and probably Garnacho. But let's see. I think it's exciting times ahead for all of us.
No, it isn't. I agree with your point. He does feel like a bit like a new signing because, as you said, he obviously fell away. And fair play to, as Benny said, Ten Hag and his team for, his kind of man management and getting him back in. I think that could be said for a number of players. I think you mentioned earlier with Wan-Bissaka. There's plenty of players that Ten Hag and his team have worked hard on, and they've obviously had a big resurgence into the side. Before we look at kind of man of the match and look to wrap this one up, obviously it's in the title. No pun intended there, but it's in the YouTube title is what I meant to say. But is the title race kind of... we're going to talk about this obviously a lot over the next few weeks, and when we drop points, we'll still be asking this question and everything else. But Tony, for yourself, where do you think this leaves us now? Because if City are in the conversation, surely that means that we are as well, because we're only 3 behind City. But do you look at our fixture list and think it's just a bit too much with the squad that we've got to be thinking about going for a full push on the league as well as the other competitions?
Yeah, it's a strange one, really. I think it's nice that we haven't got this pressure on us. No one's realistically saying we're in a title race, right? But logistically, we could be in a title race. Like we're only 3, like you said, we're only 3 points behind City. There's nothing to say that they drop a loss and we grab a win and we, get back on level pegging. We just have to stay. Someone said there's a saying. Third's actually being third in a race is always, because the first and second are always thinking about the first and second, but third's ready to jump in at a moment's notice. And I think that is something that could happen with this United team this season. I think people are so undervaluing this United team. I think in many respects, we've been just as good as City and just as good as Arsenal. Take away those 2 first games of the season where, it wasn't really our settled 11. We've been pretty much as good as those 2 all season long. And that's with all the extra games we've had to play this season as well, and the scheduling's been awful for us as well. And the injuries we've had. And I know these are variables that happen in every football team. I'm not saying that, we've had it really hard, because I know other teams have had it very hard. But what I'm trying to say is it's almost there, like, it seems like a perfect storm. I'm not saying it because I don't want to jinx it, because I'm really superstitious in that way. But I'm pussyfooting around the actual answer that I'm trying to give here. But yeah, realistically, you have to say we're in a title race until we're not in a title race. But I'm not saying anything about it, because I just want to focus on the next game, the next result, the next competition. That's all I want to do, and just enjoy watching United play. Because I've not been this happy watching Man United play in years. Even when we're not playing well, I'm still enjoying it. So,
I think that's the key, isn't it? That we're actually enjoying and like the team again.
Yeah.
I think that's the key to this one. But obviously, Z, I've got to ask it. Talk obviously, about the title and these kinds of things. Where do you kind of stand on it, or are you more like kind of myself and Tony that we're just enjoying watching United right now, and we'll just see where we kind of end up at the end of the season?
I think my weekends haven't been better in the last 2 years or something, or 3 years. So I think I'm definitely just enjoying being in the moment, and I'm also a bit superstitious myself, so I don't want to jinx it. But I was looking at the schedules, and schedule looks a bit hopeful for me, I feel like, because Arsenal is going to be playing real tough games between April and May, which I feel like that's where their collapse is going to come. So if by that time, if we have the same margin going, if we are still 3 points, 5 points behind Arsenal or City or whoever's leading, then I think definitely we can start having this conversation, or we can start believing. I also feel like a big test for us would be the game that we play against Liverpool right after the cup final. I think that's going to be a big test because Liverpool's coming back in form. Their players are starting to link, and their front three are starting to become threatful again. So I think that would be a good test for us because hopefully by that time we would be celebrating the cup final. So that would be a big test in my opinion.
Well, that's the thing, isn't it? We've got that game against Newcastle in the cup final. Then we've got the West Ham game in the FA Cup, and then we've got Liverpool straight after that. It's just no rest.
You've got to bear. Sorry, just to interrupt, Connor. Like, just to bear in mind, Liverpool have to play Real Madrid, don't they? Like 3 days later after that. So I think their minds might be elsewhere.
Potentially. Yeah. But yeah, I just look at that and I think Benny's spot on here. End of March, beginning of April. I think that's what Z you were just saying. If we're still there or thereabouts, come
because
the end of March,
in April, from April 20th till I guess 10th of March, Arsenal are going to be playing Tottenham, Brighton, Man City, Chelsea, back to back, and I feel like they're definitely dropping points over there, 110% in my opinion.
I was wrong, by the way, Connor. They're not playing 3 days after. They're going to be pretty fresh for it. There's me and my wishful thinking every time, man.
Which is why I feel like we should. I hope we don't I know Ten Hag wants to go for all the trophies, but I really hope that in that FA Cup game that we have against West Ham, we play a slightly calmer side or a weaker side, so that because the adrenaline is gonna be high if we beat Newcastle on Sunday. The adrenaline is gonna be through the roof for all these players, so it's gonna be a big test how we react.
Yeah, I mean, yeah. 100%. Liverpool have got Wolves a couple of days before. Well, it's the same days as we play. We've got West Ham that day, and Liverpool have got Wolves, and obviously we meet on the Sunday. So, yeah, as I said, I think we're just going to have to enjoy the ride. We will probably drop points at some point, just purely down to the.
Who else do you folks think we'll drop points to? Because realistically speaking, the way we are performing, the way Ten Hag's setting his teams up, now finally after a long time, I'm starting to feel confident about all these smaller games.
We've got 14 games left to the end of the season, right? That's a possible 42 points left up for grabs, right? Out of that, I could see it's dropping about 10 points, maybe. So that's about 32 points.
Because we played Arsenal and City.
That's 81 points, and usually to win the league, you need to get around 90 points. That's been the standard marker in the last 5 years.
We've got Newcastle away. We've still got Brighton away. It's the kind of games like we had against Leeds a few weeks ago. You know, and we drew 2-2. It'll be those types of games where we just draw. It might be a 1-1 or something like that, where we drop a couple of points. But like I said, the fact we're even in the conversation, we've still got Spurs away, still got Chelsea at home. The fact that we're here, I think, is incredible in itself. Considering if you cast your minds back to when we lost to Brentford. And how we all felt as we thought, oh, here we go again. Especially after the back end of last season. We started this season, we lost to Brighton at home, we lost to Brentford 4-0, and it was just, oh my life, it was just awful, wasn't it? So the fact that we're here, 6 months on or whatever.
What hurts me more? That free kick that Olise scored in Crystal Palace game. That last minute free kick, my God, I was so upset for that. And the last minute winner that Arsenal scored.
Yeah,
I really hope we would not have dropped points there.
The Crystal Palace game, that's the net game that annoys me the most, the one away at Selhurst Park. Because you think about it, right, there's so many moments in that game that changed the kind of the tale of how the next few games go ahead. You think about it like this: Martinez gets elbowed, no card, could have easily have been a red card, right? Down to 10 men. Rashford, we should have had a penalty that game, 2-0. Ten Hag brings off Casemiro, we win the game. We go to Arsenal. Who's to say that we snatch a point away at Arsenal with Casemiro in the team? I know these are all if buts and maybes, and if my grandma had wheels, she'd be a bike. You know what I mean?
But that's what the Arsenal fans are doing because they missed party against City. That's the same excuses they've been making too.
And I get that. So and there's so many factors that go into football. I guess you kind of have to you get the rub of the green. Like today, we did get a little bit of the rub of the green with De Gea making those great saves and Sabitzer not getting sent off for that foul because I have seen them given before. But yeah, it's we're still talking. I could talk forever about you. I could talk forever about United. You got to stop me at some point.
But yeah, I mean, 100%. You can't predict points. We might get none. We might be sat here, out of the top. I don't think that's going to happen, by the way. But we could win all of it. We don't know. Ultimately, we'll just see how we go on. 100%, Benny. Just enjoy the ride. Yeah, and roll on Thursday night. We'll come to the man of the match poll then. So get your votes in if you haven't voted on it already. You got about 90 seconds while I ask these two who they would have voted for. Zia, come to you first. Who would you voted for and why?
I'd say best player in the world right now, Marcus Rashford. And why would be definitely the 2 goals that he scored and the form he's in. Again, every time he had the ball and every time he was going forward, he seemed like a threat, which is what Rashford always had been before, but now it's, I guess, more lethal.
Tony, for yourself, was it Rashford as well?
I want to be a little bit different. And, for everyone who says I hate De Gea, I think those 2 saves that De Gea makes are just as vital as the 2 goals that Rashford got today. And they're such pivotal moments. And the more I'm talking about it and thinking about it, the more I'm thinking to myself, there's certain moments in games that change the trajectory of a match. And I think those 2 moments change the trajectory so much. And I think Rashford can't have every man of the match award going at the moment. But yeah, I'll give it to De Gea just purely because of the fact I want people to realise I still think he's a brilliant goalkeeper. It's just a discussion, like Beth from another channel discussed this the other day and got slandered for it. No one is above criticism or even debate, when it comes to being a professional footballer. So yeah, but brilliant.
No, 100%. I mean, just looking at the poll, so poor Sancho didn't get any votes, which is a shame. De Gea 25%, Fernandes 33%, Rashford 41%. So Rashford does win this one. Only just though, Bruno not too far behind. I think
class.
100% he was today, and that's why obviously he got the votes. I think for me it was De Gea. I agree with you, Tony. I think Rashford, yes, was one of the best players on the pitch, but I think De Gea kept us in the game when we needed it, and I think it's a completely different game. If we go behind or if we're not still in the game at the points when we are. But yeah, Rashford can't beat this. I'm sure he's going to get man of the match on Thursday when he puts them past Barcelona as well. So we'll come back to that one then. Right, we shall wrap it up there. We'll be going for just over an hour talking about this one. And just before we do, though, Benny's made a point. Yep, Kobe Mainoo coming on for a well-deserved Premier League debut.
He was brilliant as well. He made a really good block from, I think it was Vardy when he came on. Mm-hmm. And he also played really well in the final third as well. And I think, hopefully as the season goes on and there's a few games where we can use more of him and Pillistri and obviously some of the other younger players as well. It would be really nice to see because he looks like a good player.
No, 100%. Definitely somebody to keep an eye on over the next few years, that's for sure. Jarmus, you've just listed all of our fixtures there. We'll be doing a preview and match reaction for most of those. We won't be doing it for all of them. Well, not previews for every single one of those. But we'll be back on, I think, Tuesday night. And then obviously it'll either be after the game on Thursday or on Friday for the Barcelona game. And obviously leading up to the final as well, we've got a special lined up for you on that one, so keep an eye on the YouTube channel for that, coming up to the final on Sunday. Make sure you're following these guys. Tony, just very quickly, I know you've got your own article and website. I can't remember what it is, if you want to give that a shout out as well.
Sure. So it's called the Armchair Supporters, but the actual is at Armchairs United. So I just write articles. I write articles about films, Man United. I've got one coming out about Elimination Chamber, the WWE show last night, which I really enjoyed. I hate Roman Reigns, but that's it. If you get wrestling, you understand that reference. But yeah, so I love talking about United. I wrote a really interesting article about goalkeepers last week, going through obviously our options, and I said that De Gea is still a reliable goalkeeper. It's still a brilliant shot stopper. It's just obviously you have to think about these things when a new manager comes in with a new ideology. But yeah, thank you for letting me say that. I've been talking everyone's ear off today, I feel like.
That's all right. And Z, for yourself, is there anything you want to shout out or anything else while you're here before we wrap this one up?
Yes, definitely. There's a little project that I've been working on. It's called Rosat, and we are basically working on improving and raising awareness around the topic of mental health and mental wellness. We are still in the early process. We won't be launching until April, but if any of your viewers can drop us a like on the socials, that would be appreciated. Thank you.
Yeah, definitely make sure you go and check that out. I'll put the links to both of those things in the description, and obviously on the mental health one as well. If you follow me, you will see that I'm very vocal on that as well and 100% so is Hammer if you follow him on social media as well. So yeah, make sure you go and check those ones out. Thanks to everyone in the comments. appreciate all of your thoughts and everything else. We love doing this. Why we like doing live shows, so we can get your thoughts on these things as well. Come and join us again, like I said, on Tuesday, and then obviously after the Barcelona game for that as well. Make sure you like the video and subscribe it, and we shall see you guys in the next one.